Hold on. I think there you go.
Muted on my end.
I think, okay. All right. I just unmuted you, so we should be good. Everyone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine now.
Yeah, what I was going to say is I heard you're talking about the log cabin, and
yes,
this is our home, and it is right next to skiing, Park City, Utah, for any of you that know that area.
I love it.
So Woolly is the current project that I'm pretty involved in right now. Woolly is a platform to help brands sell more with their customers, and it's a long evolution to get here. It started as influencer marketing, and then we realized that everybody's an influencer at the end of the day of something. So we converted it to this idea of customer commerce.
Okay. What's that mean?
We're calling it C-commerce, and it means every brand has customers, and you should be using those people to actually bring in new customers before you go and pay for ads and other things. And so we have a whole platform of how you use your customers to bring in new customers. It's basically putting together word of mouth marketing, but making it more trackable and more measurable.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, look, I think a lot of people, they focus on net new, right? It's like, we always think it's top of the funnel. And in reality, it's like, I feel like just inherently, we're just sleeping so bad on our current customers that we over index. And this is especially in B2B, in B2B, it's like the amount of money that's just laying on the ground if you just actually like spent time talking to your current customers is ridiculous. As opposed to like, we have to get new leads that cost exponentially more, that are harder to close versus, like what you guys are up to, which is like that top part of the funnel coming from people who already are excited, or people who are evangelists or have used it. How do you see, man, I put up a post this morning about it, and I'd be curious, because you also know the kind of B2B a little bit too. Like, what do you see being applicable to B2B? Like, what are some things, and maybe you're like, dude, I don't even know, but are there things you're seeing that like, where this type of behavior, this idea of, I mean, the funny part is like, your customers talking about you is not a revolutionary idea, right? No. But all this shit becomes revolutionary like every 10 years or 15 years. So what are you seeing that you think is like super applicable to B2B? Like, what are some trends that you're seeing, or maybe it's even buyer behavior in B2C that you think will come over to B2B?
Yeah, I think, so let's start with B2C and how brands are becoming more authentic in ways of like communication. Their messengers being used to talk, chatbots. You're able to talk to a brand like a person a lot more than you ever have in the past.
Yep.
And I'm seeing that also go to B2B, where yes, this is a person over at a business, but like, it might be all right to have a conversation in SMS with those people and share photos of the trip you just went on. And I've noticed people that do that with me, it really breaks down these like formalities that we think are so important or can't be touched in the sales process. I don't want an email from a salesperson talking about their product and their business. I want to know about them as a person. And when I get to know them, I can actually kind of believe them that they're maybe repping something that's interesting to me, their software, their service. And so I think the whole idea of breaking down these barriers and formalities that you're seeing in B2C or consumer brands is also going to translate into B2B.
Yeah, dude, I agree 100%. And I think for me, it's like B2B is just, here's what I think happened is that, and maybe you saw this in B2C too, that we've got so infatuated with all of our new tracking tools that it's like, if it's not measurable, then why would I do it? Like, if it's not about an MQL or an SQL, like, what's the point? And I think, like, and this is even for me coming from being a VP of sales and success and operations, that I feel like I even had this mindset of like, why would my team be building a brand? What's the ROI? Prove it.
Yeah.
Prove it. Right. What are they going to do? And then, we just had kind of our own epiphany internally at our company where finally we realized, like, dude, people don't want to consume ebooks and blogs all the time. They want short form. They want insights. And man, if you can train your team to start to how to think more like they do on other social channels, on LinkedIn and other places, that there's just a huge opportunity to empower them to not just share your own company, propaganda in a way that's like super vanilla, But I really feel we're going to see it happen, man. My big prediction for 2020 is it's going to be the start of brands that really start in B2B. They're still going to be too boring to go like all the way to like Wendy's or No Name Brand or something like that, you know, but you're going to start to see them start to realize like, oh man, like we need to differentiate because these products are so ubiquitous now. It's like, I don't even know the difference between them. And so I'm just a firm believer that things that look like influencer marketing and brand, where you have a team of like, let's say like 500 salespeople. Like, dude, what if every single one of them posted every day on like LinkedIn, interesting stuff in your space? How would that transform your business? And that's kind of like to your point about having customers. I mean, that's probably the next level stuff, right? How can you get your customers to actually share about it? But even your own people, man, as opposed to just like direct conversion. So there's a lot there, man, but that's a lot of what we're seeing. I don't know if any of that resonates with you too.
No, that was my second point I was going to make to B2B, is that the social selling that your employees can do, or people that are not your employees, but let's say your customers, having them share their success stories around using, like in my case, our software. What did it actually do? What does a case study look like? But tell that story very anecdotally and do it on LinkedIn, where you can't beat LinkedIn right now. It's free views. Nowhere else in the history of like social networking could you have 2,000 or 3,000 connections and have content that gets 20,000 views. What's going on here? If you're not using that while it's free right now, you're missing like one opportunity that's I don't think it's going to be around forever.
Dude, that's it, man. That's exactly right. And that's why we try to tell, like, you know, we're generating now, like across like with my content, the company content and my people, we're generating, I think we'll do almost 2, if not 2.5 million views this month. And if you equate that to advertising, we're probably going to get about $150,000 to $200,000 in free advertising. LinkedIn CPMs are, $50. They're not cheap. And it's just, it's so ridiculous. And and to your point, like, and they're even over indexing people that have like 3,000, followers. You don't even have to have a ton of people, because LinkedIn right now, I think it's something like 1% of people actually share. So they're starving for content.
They're starving for content. And an intern or a new employee made content about our company, and it got 150,000 views. Her first post. Like, that's not going to happen on YouTube. That's not going to happen on Instagram. That's not going to happen on Twitter, unless you're just hit virality perfectly or say something really not.
You can talk about cats or Trump. Cats or Trump.
So this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for people to become social sellers for the brand. For the brands they're working. It doesn't matter if it's a consumer product or a B2B product. LinkedIn is a great place to go tell a story, and I think there's some boundaries there of like. Sharing every day, sharing stuff you would probably only share on Facebook, bringing that to LinkedIn. I don't want to see it turn into that immediately, but definitely storytelling and personal storytelling has done well on LinkedIn. If you can kind of tie in the business, something about the business or something that we can take away professionally versus just, oh, your cat's birthday is today. Like, I don't want to see that.
Yeah. Well, and at the same time, the same thing, you don't want to see things that are too personal. You also don't want to see things that are too stuffy, right? You don't want to see like, great, hey, we just won another best places to work, or hey, great, like check out this new ebook, and you don't even tell me what it's about, right?
100%. No, that's why I've actually never really used the LinkedIn sharing button. Isn't that interesting to me? I just feel like when I had one post where there's a few hundred shares. And I looked at all the people that shared it, and very few of them got like even 1 or 2 likes. And so I don't know why they don't fix that feature, but sharing on LinkedIn really isn't my favorite thing yet. I think it really is encouraging you to make original content.
Well, yeah, that's what they're trying to do, right? It's like they're trying to encourage you to not just do, because that's what most people are doing. Like, their marketing department says, hey, here's this new ebook we wrote, Scott. Like, you should share it with your network. And they're like, yeah, reshare with my network. Hey, check out what we did. And then people are like,
it's the worst.
Nobody gives a shit.
Have them go read it and like quote their 2 favorite takeaways and how it relates to their own life or what they did, and have them tell a story and make that original piece of content versus sharing it, which I think a share is almost as good as nothing.
That's exactly right. have an opinion. And it doesn't need to be some like thought-provoking, like in your face opinion. It can just be like, here's my summary. So for those of you who are joining us now, we've got about 30 people on. Make sure if you hear something that the Scott says that you like, make sure to hit the clap button. Scott told me before he really likes the applause. It makes him feel good. I like the heart button or the like button. It makes me feel good about myself. So feel free to, you can hit that. Sometimes people get so caught up. They're just like, this is so much good stuff.
What other options are there? Clap, heart?
Dude, so on LinkedIn now, there's a thumbs up, a clap, a heart, a light bulb, or this really felt tip pen looking thinking man. So
yeah. Okay, so it's the same emojis I get on the posts now.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same emojis. They literally look like they were drawn in the 70s with a felt tip pen. You know, like the emojis on LinkedIn are my favorite. They're just so great. Non-crisp, and like you get 5 choices. And then make sure to comment with your questions too. So we've got a couple questions that have come in. I really try to make this as much AMA as possible. I've got some questions here to get things started. But look, one thing I want to do, I've got a question myself here for you is, knowing that you come from this kind of influencer marketing world, what would you say are, and again, like there's a million things you could probably go into. What are the top kind of do's and don'ts when you think about companies that are doing it well and companies that are really doing it smart for the future versus what people did before? What would you say are some of like the do's and don'ts of, and maybe even taking it, Scott, to like the company level and the person level? Like, as a company, here's the rights and wrongs, and like as an individual, like here's how you should think about it. I think that perspective would be super, super helpful for people.
Yeah. Well, one of the tenets I think a brand should avoid at all costs is paying an influencer. Why? I think at all costs or at all chances you get, try to get someone to talk about you organically, and maybe give them something like a product, but don't think that your influencer marketing strategy should start with, I've got a budget, I'm going to go out and pay these mercenaries. That's like almost starting off saying we're not shareable enough or good enough that we have to go pay people. And I've talked so many people out of doing that. I've done that. I've paid millions and millions of dollars to influencers when I was at Disney. And at the big brand level, you kind of have to do that to engage certain personalities. But I think most people listening to this are probably trying to figure out, how do I hack influencer marketing? How do I get the best bang for my buck? And I go back to just ask, why not every time you sell something, why don't you just ask your customer as the CEO or the CMO, why don't you go and ask that customer, we would love to see how you used our product, or what you thought of our book, or what you thought about our service, and like ask them to maybe make it on a certain platform or nudge them. So few companies are even nudging people to talk about the customers they have, to talk about their products. You can get a long ways doing that, and it might be a lot more work. It might not feel scalable to get the type of numbers of vanity metrics you want, but I promise you it's worth the work, and it's much better than paid influencer marketing.
Right.
All right. Back to the person. If you're wanting to become influential, or you have a brand that you're trying to become like the personal brand, you're like trying to build a personal brand, be very careful of who you take money for, how many people you talk about. The second you take that teeth whitening opportunity for a few $100 and shout it out on Instagram, you kind of shot yourself in the foot. Be very particular. One of my close friends is a pretty good influencer, and she says she's saying no to 99% of the DM she's getting, and people that want to like have her sponsor her brand. That should be about the right statistic. About 99% of the time you're saying no. It's more about what you're saying no to. And her followers and her audience completely believe her because she is saying no.
And I think, for folks that are in like the B2B setting, to me, the thing I think is interesting is, again, you have to start to view what you're doing on LinkedIn as building audience.
Yep.
And I think that's the issue, I think, with a lot of sales and marketing people on LinkedIn right now, is that they don't take that mindset, like your friend who's like, look, I'm trying to cultivate an audience here. And so, imagine if you're in sales and you sell into like manufacturing, right? Not the sexiest industry by any means, right? Like But if you're connecting with directors of operations and you're connecting with, logistics leaders and supply, like all these people, and you're just giving them value, then when you do come with an ask or say like, hey, if this is a problem you're thinking about, we should set up time, it actually means something. And if you do that, you're only doing that once a month, or a couple times a month here or there, like that's how you build audience. That's how you hit your number. Like, if you just, I talk to so many people about this, man. It's like, if you just spent 1 month connecting with 50 people every week, God forbid, 50 a week, 100 a week, and just nurturing content, by the 30-day mark, people are going to start to kind of reach out to you, and that's what I think most people just don't understand. Like your influencer friend, right? Like they started putting out content, and then people came. And I think we're so focused on like outbound, and like call to action, that like people just beat it in, especially marketing and sales. I don't know what it is. It's like, we just can't even dedicate 20% of our activities to like actually building a relationship, and caring about audience. So why do you think that is, man? I mean, you got a lot of your experience in B2C. Like, why do you think B2B struggles so much? I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, I'm just curious as someone who doesn't like live and breathe it as much as I do, because it's just so counterintuitive to me that we're always playing the short game.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it. I do have some sales team that have definitely doing B2B sales. Our product right now is a SaaS software service, and so it's B2B as it gets. And I see them struggle with trying to build those relationships. It's hard when you're on LinkedIn as a salesperson. Like, you should probably totally change your title to something like I don't even know what to do there. It's just tough. You're already got a stigma in the very reach out process, and so I don't know some stories of how people get around that, but I do know that there's this guy named Mark A. Smith, and he's just really good. He's a sales guy. He's prolific on LinkedIn, making content, telling stories. And he's got an army. He's got an audience following him. I would suggest B2B people look at Mark. You can't miss him. He's got about 70, 80,000 followers. And he's just really, really good and genuine. Then you've got a guy named Gabe Villamazar.
Yeah.
He's at
Lucid Charts, yeah.
Good friend. And these are both people here in Utah with me that I put them into a little group in LinkedIn, and we just talk about a lot of stuff together and what works and what doesn't. But these are incredible B2B audience builders, sellers. And they just own up to this. Look, I'm in sales, and here are some of my war stories, and here are some things that work for me and don't. And he's a recruiting machine. Both of them are recruiting machines, have people coming out of the woodwork to work with them and collaborate with them, and customers come from that too, all day long. I think that's important. But last story I want to share is, I heard this about a month or two ago. A lawyer started just making golf content on LinkedIn, and telling a lot of stories about golf. And you know what? People actually like to hear more about golf than they do about law. And so here's
Shocking.
a lawyer, but he never talks about his profession. He talks about what lawyers and accountants like to do, which is go out and golf. So he started just making content around his passion. And sure enough, like, people connect to them on that. And then when they think they need a lawyer, like, oh, that guy that I get all the golf content for, I see that he's titles lawyer, like maybe I should hit him up. I mean, so there's ways to like you can be a producer and a creator of something that's not even in your category of like what you do as professional services, but build an audience there, and it will for sure lead to leads and stuff for your professional service, because you're building an audience, and it's just a numbers game at that point.
Yeah,
I do that a ton with what I'm doing. I actually make most of my content is around startup life, investments that I've made, and I rarely talk about the company I actually start and what I'm doing day in, day out. But all day long, people go and look at your bio. They look what you're about. Once your content's getting in front of them, and they go, that's interesting too. And so most of our reach out and our leads in the last 2 years, which equates to millions of dollars of ARR, have come from LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's wild, man. And I think that's what we're seeing too, is that if you just put out value, it's relevant to your audience. And again, like, that's the key, is like value is determined by the audience, not by what you necessarily perceive, but you should talk about things that you're passionate about. Like that lawyer golf is such a good example of how anybody in sales can kind of align to something that their buyers might care about.
Yep.
That's also relevant to the platform. So we got a question here from Dre Redman. What's up, Dre? Dre says, why is the older generation so against social selling in the workplace? So I think the question is, again, you've got your boss or your boss's boss or your marketing department. And so again, everyone, make sure to drop your questions or comments if you have any questions about what we're talking about here. I mean, you've got a guy who's built and invested in tons and tons of companies, and really kind of understands what this looks like in the macro. So make sure to drop your questions in the comments. And so I think he's just getting at this, and I hear this all the time. Like, look, Jake, like I shared and my marketing was like, oh, hey, that's really great, but can you make sure to, like run it by us next time? So, what is your advice to someone who's kind of working in an environment where they feel like it's not valued or understood?
Wow.
Because it's most, man. I think most companies,
really
have that mindset.
If that's happening, I'm sorry that's happening at your place, because most of the time I'm hearing the opposite, is that there's whole Slack channels made where social selling is being encouraged, and the content is, here's some stuff you guys can share, go out and engage with this. So I'm only seeing the opposite. But I was at Disney, and I would be invited to go speak at places, and they wouldn't let you go. They don't want and that was like big conferences and stuff, but they're very, very particular. So I can understand at big organizations, the marketing team, the legal team, they're a little nervous of someone speaking in their behalf, even if it's their personal social LinkedIn.
That's right, man.
You're working there at ExxonMobil, or you're working at NBC Universal. There's going to be hell to pay if you kind of do the wrong thing and say the wrong thing.
Well, because I think what it is, man, I just want to, I think here's a perception I see is, unlike other social media platforms, if you're in sales, your company might be paying for sales nav for you. If you're in recruitment, your company might be paying for your recruiter license.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, so like, you don't have my login. You don't have, like, I'm going to share what I want. So keep going. But I think that's where I see a lot of this fear come from, is that people are nervous because their company is paying for part of it. Therefore, they view it as a company tool, even though it's their tool and their login.
That's a great point. I've never thought about it, Jake. I'm really starting to realize that might be why LinkedIn sees such a low participation rate on created content. Why you don't see a ton of people from big corporations actually posting, and they're mostly resharing and liking, but it's like this passive majority of LinkedIn that gives me views, luckily, but isn't competing with me on views, in the sense that they're not making something. And that's I bet you Microsoft and LinkedIn are thinking about that in every day right now. Like, how do we help these organizations not fear that creation, and not feel like they got to go to legal before they make a post? Or maybe they're going the other way, and maybe they're tightening up even more, and people have gone too much the other way, and like, oh, this is associated with our brand. So I don't know why. And I think you should be aware of, like, is my company one that would do something negative if I kind of went out with my own opinion or told a story? Or is this company I actually want to work for if they don't let me sell in a way that I think the numbers back that is really doing a really great way to sell social selling? There's products out there that are people, big organizations are actually buying to support this. Yeah. Everyone's Social is a local company. That's all they do, is the platform to get your customer, your employees sharing the brand message. I love it. And maybe that's broken, though. Maybe the brand message isn't the only thing you should be sharing, right? That's what we're talking about. That's exactly right, dude. Share golf, share other things. Use it as your own social network. It's your brand. Everyone to use it. Even my first company, I encouraged everyone to use LinkedIn. And I told them right off, like, you're not going to work here forever. This isn't your only job. You need to be building your LinkedIn so that you are marketable outside of this place, that you have an audience, so that people know what you're up to, what you're good at, so that what's your superhuman skill that no one else does. Like, that should be coming out through your LinkedIn profile. Well, I think that's it. It's like, it's your brand. Like, that's never going to go away. I equate it to, I don't know when I kind of thought of this analogy, but it's the best one. It's, I'm in Austin right now, and
what you used to do is you used to join the Chamber of Commerce and you network with people and you built up a reputation in Austin,
Yep.
and people knew who you were. This is the exact same thing.
Yep.
It's just global. I mean, it's like exponentially better. Like you're connecting with people, you're interacting with them every single day, you're building a reputation. And I don't think you can afford to. So for me, like to answer Dre's question, I think a lot of it is just sitting down and having a conversation with them and saying like, look, I totally understand. Let me do X, Y, Z for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Let me prove some value here. Because I think a lot of it is they just don't get it. And so if you can like just sit down and talk to them, I find that they're easier to, you know, kind of navigate.
You want to hear a crazy story?
Yeah, man.
So Qualtrics is a company here in Utah, got bought for $8 billion a year ago. They have this expo and they had Obama come to speak. And one of the employees took a photo with Obama and kind of wrote on LinkedIn his kind of how cool it was to meet him and whatever. That one piece of content, and luckily he shared it, and look at it, was brand safe. It was, the backdrop was all Qualtrics logos. It was their event. But he shared that post and it got somewhere between 14, 16 million impressions. It was more impressions than the entire event got through all of their combined media, combined spin, combined other Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn posts they did by a multitude.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. And what if they didn't encourage that? Like, what if that person like hesitated to post or something? And luckily, Qualtrics, I believe, encourages social selling. But you know the CPMs. How much would that be in a LinkedIn buy?
A lot.
I'm safe to say probably several $100,000 to get that type of reach for your brand. And that was one employee. Well, guess what? He was elevated. They talked about that. They had a special session after. He met with the social media department.
$800,000. $800,000. $800,000. If you got 16 million views and it's $50 CPMs, that means that dude got $800,000 in free advertising with one organic.
In what we call earned media value.
It's insane, dude. Why? I mean, it's like every marketing, like wake up, B2B marketing. Like it is, God, like how can you not hear this number as a marketer in sales and be like, dude, whatever I'm doing is stupid. And I have to like, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, we're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars of earned, and that was one dude. What if like what if 6 people would have posted about Obama?
Yeah. and I think others did, but something about his content just went off the hook. And I told him to go. I'll jokingly say you should seriously invoice him at least $100K, for that exposure. But he did use his advantage. He actually got a great elevated role there and being paid very well. And I have to think that a lot of it started right there. And also he's kind of been able to catapult that first audience he got into more content that he makes and become a thought leader and kind of figuring out what he likes to say and talk about when he does social selling. So he would have never had that if he didn't take a chance. And he's at a big company. So the whole goal there, the whole takeaway is take a chance and do. If you're thinking not to post, if you're sitting there like, should I post or should I not? Go with the post instead of listening to that other side that says don't post. And
that's right.
And pay for it later. Mostly it'll probably be positive. If you're at that company that doesn't reward you for doing that, you don't want to be there anyway. So be gone.
Yeah, or it'll be negative. It'll be negative in the beginning. Like what I found a lot of is, you get a lot of people, salespeople, and of course we don't like to admit this, but we also have egos. And we're a little, it's still a little bro-ish, right? And so when your buddy starts posting, you're like, man, who's Scott? Look at you, Scott. You think you're fancy now? You're posting over on LinkedIn. You know what I mean? Like that. And I think it's that attitude that, because you're in that sales floor with hundreds of people and you're going to post and you're like, dude, Johnny's going to give me shit and Susie's going to like think I'm the man. And I got that feedback. It's funny. I did a podcast with a guy in March, sales leader I really respect. And he's like, dude, I gotta be honest. When you first started posting, I was like, man, what is this guy doing? And but over time they all kind of come around, and like at the end of the day, like we've talked about, it's kind of your career. I think that's a good answer for Dre. Dre said thank you for the great response.
Okay, good to hear.
So
there is too much posting though. Don't be one of them.
Yeah.
There is.
What do you think is too much posting? What do you think is too much?
You can make too much content, or start saying just too much that you'll actually probably get some unfollows from people you would rather have following you. I've had to mute or silence people on all networks, and it's just don't be one of those. There's a healthy medium, I think, that you can find.
What is that healthy medium for you? Like, what do you think that looks like?
I really like to try to post once a week on LinkedIn, and that's either a photo, a video, or just text. I've been known to do it twice a week, but that's about as much as I need to do for. I just don't have time, honestly, because when I post, I like to engage with every single. I like to ask questions, and I like to engage with every single person that comments if I can, and that takes up a good 2 to 3 hours a day. If your post gets any type of traction, let's call it like 100,000 views and 100 to 200 comments, that's a 6 to 7 hour day for me, because I take it very seriously to engage with those people. So you got to be prepared for that. I mean, social selling is a job, and that's not even on the creation side or making the content. That's on the what happens after. So people that are posting daily, that's good but I doubt a lot of them can actually engage as much as they'd like with what's actually happening. So, and I'm really into, and not only that, after I post, I probably get 50 to 100 inbound messages.
Yeah.
Some of them spammy, but those direct messages in the inbox and LinkedIn, a lot of them are opportunities and people that want to meet or talk or share an opportunity with me. And I'm pretty open to that. I'm an angel investor. So that's how I found my best opportunities to invest in, is listening to these people that come out of the woodwork. And, it's the 99 out of 1 type of game that you got to go through 99 to find a good one. But
that's right.
If you're getting 50 to 100 messages after each post, that's saying that 1 or 2 of those is going to be interesting. And so it's a lot of work curating if you're really being intentful about posting and wanting to hear the answer to the thing you're asking or the idea you're presenting, you've got to engage in those comments. And if you're not, then it's not that genuine. You're just looking for views and not really answers. Yeah,
like there's a good example I would say would be, well, I don't want to say it out loud. Well, there's an investor in SaaS who's gets a lot of traction because of investments of where he did previously, and never comments, never responds to any comments. You know who else does LinkedIn really poorly, who I love, is Gary Vee. Is that Gary Vee is so, he has got this figured out better than anybody, but LinkedIn, it's not. He doesn't engage. There's no engagement.
No.
And I think that it's a really big miss for him on that platform. For me, I think for most of you, if you're posting at least once a day, you're going to be fine, like at least for a while, right? Like your audiences aren't that big. And if you can do it, because a lot of this is about consistency. If I get used to seeing your posts like every morning at 8:30, then I'm like, oh, there's that, or there's that. And I think as long as you're continuing to add value, it's okay. And for me, we post probably twice a day. And I can tell you, you might get a few unfollows here or there, but the delta is massive. And I think it all is about how much time you have and how much time you have to say it. But to your point too, like making sure you can interact with most of the people that are, if not all, that are commenting. I think that's a key element. That if you go and look at my posts on any given day, 95% of them, you're going to see me respond to almost every single comment. And I think that's so key, man. If someone takes the time to drop you a comment, you better get your ass over there and interact with them as much as you can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
and I think you're a creator. I mean, you're posting once a day because this is kind of a job for you.
That's 100. As a CEO of a company, right? I really believe it's that important, right? Like if I thought that there was a better way to use my time, I would be doing it. But I really believe, and it's why, look, we started doing this for companies now. And I mean, it was just too obvious that we are really trying to position ourselves in a big chunk of the work we're doing at Skaled as really like the first B2B focused agency, and candidly focusing primarily on LinkedIn, because nobody's doing it. And it's so easy right now. The bar to get 5x engagement is guess what? We're going to take the same ebook, Scott, here's the trick, the same exact thing. And we're just going to put here are the top 3 things you should know from it. Oh my God. 5x engagement. Like a lot more people like it. And then guess what? We might reshare an article from somebody else. Oh, but not share the article, put it in the comments. We'll put some commentary around it. You know, like the bar right now is so low for companies. And I feel like if you're just not thinking about, you're already taking the time, you just have to stop. The problem is LinkedIn used to be a throwaway because it was primarily for recruitment, right? And so like how you would post really didn't matter, but now it matters. And I think B2B marketers are just not waking up. It's why like we're so excited about it. And we've been able to like kind of quickly get a little bit of traction on this as we just started this group. So I've got a couple questions here. And again, everyone, make sure to keep the questions coming in the comments. We've got 2 more here. We'll try to pick our best question of the day too. We've got about 60 people now. All right. So we got like a good amount of people. What's up, everyone? He talks about connecting. So Ryan Hill, what's going on, Ryan, says, I was suggesting connecting with 50 people. And again, I'm talking about like if you're kind of building your audience. You know, and this is maybe just a question for you, Scott. I'll kind of rephrase this a little bit. You know, like what are best practices for you when someone's reaching out? So if someone's reaching out to you and they want to connect with you and you might not know them, you know, 1, what are your thoughts and your strategy around, do you connect with them? 2, what works for you? You know, like for me, I'm more liberal. For me, the best thing you can do is do something hyper personalized, which is like, hey, Jake, I saw this, and this, not this one thing. And that's all over the place, right? I'm like, yes, 100% connect. But hey, Jake, I saw what Scaled's up to, and I really think there's some interesting synergies. That's a very quick no, because I know the next thing you're going to do is fucking DM me as soon as I hit accept. So I'm not going to accept it. So I would rather you send nothing and like you kind of look like a relevant person and I just hit connect, or send something hyper personalized. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
What about you?
And my connection's showing a little poor. How are you hearing me?
I can hear you fine.
So I'm right where you're at on that relevancy in the first outreach. I block anybody that is from a foreign country doing, you know, that I'm
lead generation.
Yeah, I can tell I'm in a what do you call it, the pipeline messages going to hundreds of people.
That's right. You're on step 7 of the cadence.
I'm pretty liberal in connecting with people. If it's in my area, if it's in my Salt Lake City, Utah, I pretty much give anybody the benefit of the doubt just because it's community. I want to connect with people, even if it's like I can tell they're probably brand new sometimes to LinkedIn, but let's have them connect. I haven't really thought much about hitting a maximum connection thing that LinkedIn has at 30,000 or anything. I try to connect with people. What I don't like is LinkedIn actually, and the inbox really needs to get retrofitted for communications. There's no snoozing. I have lost messages in there with people I want to talk to, and I'll never find again unless they come back to me. And I see it all the time when I connect with someone like 5 months later. I'm like, oh my gosh, we were going to get lunch.
I know why. Yeah, I know why I connected. Oh shit! Now I got to go back to it. Yeah. Yeah.
So LinkedIn is actually pretty broken from a kind of a connection management side of things, and Microsoft needs to step in and get that inbox fixed. If you ask me, make it more productive. But to your point, though, is as long as you're coming to me with a effort being done on your end of what you like about what I'm creating, something you can do for me, connect me with, a real question that I can quickly answer, and that's really, you're not trying to get on the phone with me. You just have a question. I love answering a quick question. I'll do it all the time.
Yeah, especially if you make it relevant.
Don't be a question that's like, "How's your day?" or something. Like, you don't care about my day. Like, ask me a question based on what I've done.
That's right.
That you think I might have the answer to, because it's unique to my field of expertise, and I will happily share or make an introduction for you. But don't use some canned thing that you've heard on some blog that you think should work, and you take it and do it to 100 people a day, type of thing. No, do some research, and you know what? Research isn't that scalable. Like, if the right way is probably you're only gonna be able to get a few people a day, unless it's your full-time job, where you can actually be get a reach out that actually resonates with someone who's getting 50 to 100 reach outs a day. It's going to have to be unique, because I've seen it all. We've seen it all if we've been on LinkedIn, and I can in about a half a second, I know where someone's going, and I don't touch it if it has any of the signs that it's going towards.
Yeah, it's going to go like straight. Yeah, demand gen. So, all right, my man. So we've got maybe one more question here, and then we'll wrap up. So Noel Christopher says, if someone is wanting to move to a company in sales leadership, or maybe they're going to move to a company, what questions would they ask their marketing or like LinkedIn? Like, what would you, if you were looking for a new company and you're on the front lines, let's say you're in sales or you're in marketing, like what are some things that you would ask? Right? Like, what would you do to like vet the company, or what are some questions you think somebody could ask? And we've talked about a few of these too.
Maybe I'm not understanding. Is this someone looking to start at a new company and wants to?
They're like vetting. Like, what if I'm vetting a company and I want to know like how liberal their social policies are? So like some of the things that we were talking about before, it's like, okay, cool. I'm thinking about joining this. And I also I believe in what you guys are saying around brand. What should we do?
I mean, I think it's pretty evident to go look at their channels, and probably a lot of clues onto this, people talking about it right there. Would you agree, Jake? I haven't done this actually.
Yeah. I mean, I think the key is, I would look at their channels, and then I would just be very upfront. I'd say, look, here's the type of stuff that I've posted before. Is this cool? Like, I think a lot of this is just about being very realistic with them. And I think it's an okay question to ask now. If you have the right VP of sales, right, or the right, CMO, they're going to be like, oh God, thank God somebody gets it. Right. Yeah. Like, I think you're going to know pretty quickly by their reaction. If their reaction is like, well, yeah, sure, Scott, like, that's great, versus like, oh man, like, this is no, like, or like, yeah, cool, man. Like, yeah, we'll give it a shot. Let's see what happens. I think that's what you look for.
Yeah. I mean, a great litmus test would be to directly message or connect with the CMO, see if they connect with you, see if they respond, or somebody at the company, and do your own internal, due diligence.
Yeah, I think that's a good, and like looking across their team, take a look at their sales team. Is anybody posting? Is anyone doing anything different? I think that's smart. Yeah, just do your due diligence. Don't just take their word for it, because they might not even know, right? They might be like, oh yeah, it's cool. And then they're like, no, man, you can't do that shit. So look, man. I really appreciate it, man. I'm glad we got a chance to connect. I'm going to be coming out your way. I think in January, I'm coming out there to go skiing. So yeah, I've never been, so I'm excited. I've never been to Park City. I did Whistler last year. I'm kind of excited about it.
Hit me up.
I will. I definitely will. So for everyone who's looking to find this, so you can go to my posts and you can come check it out. So the easiest way is if you tag yourself or tag a few peers, like just comment your name and hyperlink it. Makes it really easy for you to come back and find. But you can go back to my post too and just kind of toggle through. So yeah, man, we had about a little over 60 people or so kind of checking it out over the course of the 40 minutes or so. So it was a good turnout, and I really appreciate it, Scott. I'm glad we got a chance to connect and kind of talk about some of this. I think this is a topic that a lot of folks are thinking about. And I think your experience is super relevant. So I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Keep in touch.
All right. Thanks, man.